Hey, welcome to today's video. My name is Jessie if you do not know me yet. I've always wanted to do something where you guys have voted on what I read, but I just didn't feel like anybody would vote, but I just went for it. I decided to post 3 different polls with 2 books each, and I had you guys vote on which ones you would want me to read. I'll show you all the 6 books that I had you guys vote on, and then we will look at the results and see which ones won. Then we'll just spend the next week or so. I'll read these books, share my thoughts with you, and we'll see how I like these books and how they turn out for me. For the first poll I posted, I had Brutal Prince and Swift and Saddled. These are 2 romances. This one is a mafia romance. This one is more of just like a cowboy, more laid back romance. No violence. This one is on my June TBR. This one is not, but I did read Done and Dusted. It was my last book of May, so I would like to get to the second one fairly soon. Poll number 2, these books were actually both on my TBR, so no matter which one wins, I'll be fine with. I have The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn and then Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. This is a mystery. This one is more of just a contemporary fiction, but it does have somewhat of a mystery element to it. I may be wrong on that, but I think we're just dealing with a lot of people and we're learning about their lives. So not like a full-on mystery, but just what are these people's lives about? These don't really match up genre-wise too much, but I just want to put them together because I feel like they were the closest related to what was on my June TBR. And then the last poll, I did fantasies, and they were both the first book in duologies that I need to finish. So this is Six of Crows and Dance of Thieves. And with these, I don't really have one that I'm hoping wins either. I'll be fine with either of them. I'm going to look at the results right now, see which ones won. They were very neck and neck. The romance poll, one of them was definitely winning way more than the other one. But the other 2, I might be screwed with. They might be 50-50. I did post these polls yesterday. It's been a little over 24 hours now. So we've had a whole day for these to sit in. And one of them is 50-50. So I'm going to send this poll to somebody real quick and force them to vote in it. Let me do that and then we'll just see which book they pick because I don't think they know anything about either of these books. Okay, so I'll post the poll results here. First one between Brutal Prince and Swift and Saddled. This one, obviously, one of them is the clear winner. It's Brutal Prince. We had 74% and then Swift and Saddled was 26%, which honestly surprises me. I feel like Swift and Saddled would have been the winner just because it's a newer release and I feel like it's being talked about more often than Brutal Prince is in this current moment. I will be reading a mafia romance, guys. I'm a little nervous for this one. I did say that I don't think that I'm gonna like this, so we'll see. I don't know. And then second, between The Woman in the Window and Anxious People, this one was 50-50 for a while, so we got another vote. Anxious People was the winner. And I'm super happy about this because I want to read a book by Frederick Bachman so bad. I've heard great things about him as an author too. Lastly, we had Dance of Thieves and Six of Crows. This one was also kind of 50-50 for a long time. It was still very close, but Six of Crows ended up winning with 52% and then Dance of Thieves had 48%. I didn't really like the Shadow and Bone trilogy, so I'm kind of nervous for this one, but I do think that I will like this one more. This is the one that I wanted to read, but I just read Shadow and Bone just because it was suggested that you should read that trilogy before because it's set in the same world. Alright, here are our 3 books. Now I have to pick which one I want to read first. I don't think I want to do Six of Crows just because it is the longest. I don't want to read Brutal Prince yet just because I finished a romance recently and I don't want to dive into another romance right now. I think I might want to read Anxious People first. This is about a group of people who gets held hostage by this failed bank robber who ends up going to this apartment's open house. He holds all those people in there hostage, and then I guess while this is all happening, they're kind of sharing their stories with each other and getting to know each other a little bit. It says, as the minutes tick by, they begin to suspect that the criminal mastermind holding them hostage might be more in need of rescuing than they are. The reluctant allies will reveal surprising truths about themselves and set in motion a chain of events so unexpected that they can hardly explain what happens next. I have high hopes for this one. I think that I maybe end up crying. I'm gonna read this one first. We'll get started on it and I will get a little ways into it and update you when I have any thoughts on it. If you voted for these books and they won, congratulations. If not, I'm so sorry, but I will get to the other ones eventually. I don't know if you can hear me. I read 1 page and it's already the most relatable book I've ever read in my entire life. I have yet to talk about this book yet. I only have about 130 pages left. I'm on page 209, I think. I'm loving it so far. I really enjoy his writing. This is the first book I've read by him. I don't know if I mentioned that. Now that I've read most of this, just giving a little more of the plot and what is going on. We have this person who was trying to rob a bank. It's a failed bank robbery. They run into the apartment across the street. They're trapped in there now, and there's an apartment viewing going on. So the people that were in there are kind of being held hostage because this bank robber is now in there. The police show up, and the police are doing interviews with everybody in there after they come come out of the apartment. And it's set up in a way that the timeline is kind of going back and forth to the current moment where we're getting the police interviews with these different characters, and then it's going back and you're finding out more information of what was happening in the apartment from those characters' point of views. And I'm really liking that. I like how he's connecting everything together. He's giving us a perfect amount of information at a time to where we're able to kind of get new hints to the story and what is going on and who these characters are. Character-wise, I'm not liking any of the characters, but I think he writes characters very well, and I think there's a point to the way that his characters are written in this book, so I'm waiting for that to come up. I've kind of like deciphered it a little bit, but I think there's a little bit of a deeper meaning. It does have some sort of a mystery element to it, more than I thought it was going to. Essentially, now you're trying to figure out what happens to the bank robber, so there is that like little mystery behind that. Going back to the writing, there's a lot of quotes in here that I really like because they're kind of relating to mental health and they just speak to me a lot. No matter who you are, what you're doing in your life, what you've gone through in your life, I think that you can relate to this book in any way. It's also just so interesting because the way that he's laying everything out, he's making you realize that you could walk past someone in your life and you have no idea who they are, but there could be a possible way that something that you do could relate to an action that they do. You could just be connected to all these people that you have no idea that you're connected with. It really makes you think, and I'm really enjoying that that is happening to my brain. The only thing that I'm not loving too much about this is the pacing. I think after the first like 25%, it did get a little slower, and it is difficult with this book too because the events that are happening are taking place over the course of one single day, at least so far. I don't know if later in the book if it'll progress to a different day. With it being a little over 300 pages, it is just a little slow because you only have kind of two settings and you're going back into a lot of the characters' past lives to learn more about them. I really like those parts, but it can make it seem a little slow to get through. So I think that's the only thing that I'm kind of really having doubts about. This book definitely does have little twists and turns. I actually just read about a pretty big twist in my opinion. This may be an unpopular opinion. Well, I'm pretty sure it is an unpopular opinion, but I don't necessarily like when I don't guess plot twist. And it's just a little frustrating because then I want to go back and read the entire book to see what I missed and how that came to be. Once you get the plot twist, it's got to be obvious if you go back and read everything, but I don't want to reread. I feel like I'm the only one that has those feelings, but for me, I don't know. I just got that little plot twist type thing going on and I was like, dang, now I just want to reread everything to see if I could catch it. So as of right now, those are my thoughts. I'm really liking this. I think I'm probably sitting at like a 4-star rating, but I'm going to try to finish this right now and we'll see how this ends and we'll see how it all comes together. Okay, now this book has me questioning everything because it twisted and now we're twisted back. I just want to know what is happening. I have, I think like 60 pages left, less than 60 pages. Now I'm like, what the heck is going on? Looked out to make me cry so much. That was rough. Okay, sorry if I have snot and dried up tears all over my face. Whew. There's no way that I cannot get this book 5 stars. I felt so much with this, more than I have maybe ever felt in a book. It was so not what I was expecting. I was expecting just a story about a bank robbery and a hostage situation, and it was so much more than that. It just goes so far into life and what life means, if it means anything, and people you meet along the way and how you're connected to them. This book means a lot to me now. I was gonna give it a 4 stars. I can't give it anything less than a 5 star. That has anxious people. Holy crap. I just can't get over the writing, and I did say it was slow, but honestly, spending time in those moments that may have seemed a little dragged out too much just helped you get to know these characters a little more. I did not think this book was gonna go as deep as it did. If you're dealing with anything, this book is for you. I think that if you've ever doubted staying, you need to read this book. It hits so much. It was great. The way that things played out, the character development, honestly, it was perfect. Definitely recommend this if you have not read it yet. I think I'm glad that this is the first book in this reading vlog because it was probably the most emotional and I got my tears out. Now we can move on, and I definitely think I'm gonna read Brutal Prince next, which I'm going from that book to probably a really cringy, cheesy mafia romance. All I know about this is that it is a mafia romance. I've read 2 books by this author. I read The Sinner's Duet. They were okay. I think average. I would give them like a 3 stars. I don't necessarily know if I would recommend them, but I've heard a lot more good things about this series. I believe this is called the Brutal Birthright series. It consists of 6 books, so if I like this, I'm gonna have a lot more books to purchase, which definitely kind of sucks. Anyway, so this is about the Griffins and the Gallows, who are different mafia families, and it takes place in Chicago, so there's a rivalry between them. Ada, the youngest sibling of the Gallows, crashes a party at the Griffins' mansion and sets fire to the library. In comes Callum Griffin. He's the oldest son and the heir to the Irish mafia, and then it's just their romance. I mean, it seems interesting. I think this is my first mafia romance. Like I said before in my other videos, I don't have high expectations of me liking this, so we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna start this later today probably, and then I will update you when I'm a little ways in. I made it 50 pages in, so I'm still very early on. This book is short though. It's only, I think, 280 pages. I am liking it so far. Obviously, I'm still at the beginning, so I can't say too much. I just figured out that it's going to be an arranged marriage, which I'm never really too much of a fan of, but I think under the circumstances that has just happened, I think it's going to be very interesting. I like our main character so far, Ada. She's very tough. I really like the dynamic between her and her brothers. I'm pretty sure they're gonna grow on me a lot, and I'm really gonna like their relationships with each other and how they connect. So hopefully there's more of them in the rest of the book. But yeah, we just pretty much got past the whole intro type deal that happened and the craziness that went down, and now I just feel like we're gonna kick it off. So I think this is gonna be pretty fast paced. I don't think it's gonna be anything too extravagant or much to my liking. I'm gonna still enjoy it a lot, I think. Okay, well, I have some talking to do. I finished this last night. Let me start off by saying I should have DNF'd this probably. I just wanted to get through it. I was pretty much skimming it, so technically I guess I could say I maybe DNF'd it, but I did skim it just to get the brief plot points that happened throughout the rest of the book. And the last time I talked, I said that I was actually enjoying it and I was willing to see where it was going. I was kind of excited, but after around the page 70 mark, so not long after I updated, I just started to hate the male main character. Callum is just not a man that I'm rooting for. It's a thing where I don't understand how someone rates a man and expects me to root for him when he's somebody that wants to control women and says like, oh, you're mine now, you're gonna do anything I tell you to do. He basically said that women are just so easy to throw away and move on to the next one. They're basically objects. Like, how am I supposed to root for someone's romance when a man is like that? I hated him from the second we really got into his mind and his viewpoint on relationships and women. I couldn't. Like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. And from that point on, I knew I wasn't gonna like the rest of the book. There wasn't gonna be any redeeming qualities for him. The arranged marriage portion was a little, I guess it was random. It kind of made sense, but there wasn't enough to back it up to where I was like, okay, this is a decent explanation for it. I felt like there was just so much thrown in there and it didn't really make sense for a plot. It was just all these different like mafia things happening with different families, but they never really connected or made sense to a bigger story. There wasn't really too much character development. It ended pretty fast and randomly. The relationship even moved very fast, and a lot of it just didn't make sense. The plots just didn't line up. For their arranged marriage, they were thrown in together, obviously. It was brought up that Callum was actually dating someone for a few months and he had to break up with her because he was getting married, and then Ada was also dating someone months ago. So in the timeline of them getting married and saying how long they have been dating for to make it not seem fake, it just didn't line up with what they were doing with their lives. I think the only thing that I really liked was her dynamic with her brothers. I really enjoyed her brothers. I think that if they have stories in their future books, then I would probably like their books, but I don't think I like the writing enough to continue. Unfortunately, I did not like this book. I did give it a 1 stars because I was wanting to DNF it. I said that I didn't have high expectations for this going into it just because of like the whole mafia thing, but honestly that was kind of fine for me and I just didn't like the other parts. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I just cannot root for a romance when the characters are not necessarily good people, and yeah, they're mafia people, but it wasn't even that they were bad people with the whole mafia type situation. They were just bad people with their views. I guess like the girl main character was okay. She did some very messed up stuff, but I just, Callum, man, and his thoughts with girls, I can't. Anyway, that's Brutal Prince. Now we're moving on to our very last book for this vlog. This is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I did previously read the Shadow and Bone trilogy and I wasn't a fan of it. I just think that it was very, very fast-paced, which I love fast-paced, but I just didn't enjoy the fast pace in that because there wasn't enough depth to the plot in my opinion. This one I do think is going to be better. I've heard a lot of people say that this duology is 10 times better than Shadow and Bone. I just wanted to read Shadow and Bone to get introduced to the world since they are taking place in the same world. This one I honestly don't know too much about the plot even. The front says 6 dangerous outcasts, 1 impossible heist. Well, already it seems more interesting than the other trilogy. It says Ketterdam, a bustling hub of international trade where anything can be had for the right price. And no one knows that better than criminal prodigy Kaz Brecker. Kaz is offered a chance at a deadly heist that can make him rich beyond his wildest dreams, but he can't pull it off alone. His crew are the only ones who might stand between the world and destruction if they don't kill each other first. I'm kind of glad I saved this for last. I think it'll be super fun. This one's about like 462 pages. I'm hoping that I don't take too long to read this and then I just want to binge it. I've been wanting to read this for so long and I'm just now picking it up. I will see you when I'm a little ways into this one and hopefully I can update you a little more for this. I know that I haven't really been updating a ton. A lot of people probably want to see me read this and get my thoughts on this book. It's finally happening. It's here. I'm reading Six of Crows. Let's just get started. Why'd you get scared? Hi, so it's been a few days. I'm on page 185. I just got to part 3. I'm liking it so far. In the beginning, there were a lot of characters that I was introduced to. I'm still not really able to differentiate between the characters. I don't think they were really written to have personalities that I can distinguish them from each other. It's been a little bit of a struggle with how many characters there are, but now I think I'm at a point where the ones we are spending more time with, I'm kind of being able to tell them apart a little bit. So I know that it's only going to get easier from here on out. Plot-wise, things are going good. I think that it's going at a nice pace. We're kind of building up to this big heist. There's little things that have happened already, but I think it's really interesting and I'm excited to get to that big event. There's probably going to be a lot of action and adventure. This one I'm liking a lot more than Shadow and Bone. I think it's definitely more in-depth, but it's still not too much in-depth, but it's up to my expectations so far. I think the writing could have more of an atmospheric vibe. I feel like she's an author that writes very fast-paced, which is always good. I do love fast-paced stuff, but a lot of times with fantasy I do want that more of an atmosphere type writing just so I can get into the world. And then world building wise, I think it's going really well. It's a lot stronger than the Shadow and Bone trilogy in my opinion. At this point, all good things. I don't have anything that is bothering me. I'm just enjoying my time. The biggest thing that I don't want to say iffy about because I'm not mad about it or I don't dislike it at all, but it's a little weird to me that these characters are young. They're like 17, 15. The way that it is written and the actions that they are taking and the dialogue they are using, it's very hard to picture them as young people. I'm just very surprised that it's young adult. Not that the plot and what we're reading about should only be adult, but the way that everything is written and the characters' ages don't really line up for me for some reason. I don't know if anybody else has that opinion on this. Now that I've been reading this for a few days, I've been having a hard time focusing on this. I've just been in a crazy headspace, and when I get into that situation, it's very hard for me to focus on what I'm reading in a book. I'll be getting through the book, but I'm thinking about things happening in my life and with myself at the same time, and then I can't digest what I'm reading. I don't understand anything. I had to go back a few times. I know that I'm not taking it in as much as I should be. I am feeling better today though, so I think from now on I can take this in like I need to. And I was hoping to be done with this by now. Obviously I'm not even halfway through yet. I do want to just try to binge this today and see if I can finish it. It's really nice out, so I'm probably gonna go outside in a little bit and see how far I can get. But so far so good. And I will update you when I am maybe halfway through. Page 234 now, so I'm halfway through. I think the only update that I have so far is that I feel like somebody in this group is going to betray the group. I have 2 ideas of who it is. There's someone that is kind of obvious if someone were to betray the group, but I think it's somebody else. I don't want to say because it's not true right now, but it could be, and I don't want to spoil anything. But I just feel like that might happen. There might be a little betrayal. There already was in the beginning of the book with somebody, and I just feel like it could happen again. Oh, and then I forgot to read you guys some quotes I took pictures of when I was reading last night, because I'm not tabbing this book, so I just took some pictures on my phone of the pages. So these are out of context, they might be a little confusing, but this one says, she laughed as if the chase was nothing but a game, as if she'd known he would catch her, as if she'd wanted him to, and there was no place she'd rather be than beneath him. She was welcoming and perfect in his arms. He kissed her, buried his face in the sweet hollow of her neck. Her curls brushed his cheeks, and he felt that if he could just hold her a little longer, every wound, every hurt, every bad thing would melt away. That is so cute. And then this one, many boys will bring you flowers, but someday you'll meet a boy who will learn your favorite flower, your favorite song, your favorite sweet. And even if he is too poor to give you any of them, it won't matter because he will have taken the time to know you as no one else does. And the last one, she wouldn't wish love on anyone. It was the guest you welcomed and then couldn't be rid of. And I really like that one, and I wanted to tap it, but I was like, I'll just take a picture of it and have it in my camera roll. Not too much to update because I didn't read too many pages or chapters, so I'm almost on part 4. I think there's 6 parts. Yeah. So, and I don't know where this one's gonna leave off to go into Crooked Kingdom. I'm just gonna continue and I'll come back. Okay, I literally just started reading the next page, and there's another cute quote, so I'm gonna share it. Why did one smile from Matthias Helvar feel like 50 from someone else? Why are there so many cute little romance quotes in this book? Like, what? I think I'm just maybe in my feels right now. Inside. I promise I'm not switching anymore, but I got to page 321. I'm on part 5 now, so we're almost done. I have that much left to go. I don't really have a different opinion. I'm still liking it. I don't think like the characters are sticking out too much for me. I'm not really connected to any of them, and it's not something that I'm gonna be obsessed with. I know, I just feel like the story isn't enough for me to be obsessed with it, but it's still really good and I'm still enjoying it. But I just wanted to update and let you guys know where I was. I'll most likely finish this tonight because I'm finally moving through it at a decent pace, and next time I talk to you, I honestly will probably be done with the book. I'll give you my final thoughts. I'm hoping it gives me like some sort of reaction that you guys can see, but it hasn't really done that so far. Ring light right now. I haven't used one forever, but it's so dark and gloomy outside that I have to. I did finish 6 of Crows. I'm just gonna give you my final thoughts on this book and wrap up kind of what I liked, what I didn't like, give you my final rating, and then we'll just wrap up everything in this video. So first, with the final thoughts on this, I did enjoy this. I'm glad that I enjoyed it a lot more than the Shadow and Bone trilogy. There was a lot more action. I feel like there was more depth to this book in this world and the characters. I did not really find myself liking too many of the characters. Not that I didn't like them, but I just didn't really get attached to them. Nina and Matthias were definitely my favorite. I love them a lot, actually. They were probably the only ones that did give me some feels and connection to them, so I'm very excited to see what's in store for them, and of course all of our other characters, but I just feel like the other ones didn't really stand out to me. Plot wise, it did get a lot more interesting towards the end. Most of the book, it was not boring, but it was just a little more of a slower pace, and you just had to be patient. There was a lot of going back and forth between timelines like current and past, which I actually did appreciate because we were getting to know the characters more when we were jumping back into their timelines. This is told from multiple point of views within our group of crew that we're dealing with. It definitely didn't go where I was expecting. There were a lot of plot twists in here, and I do enjoy plot twists. I do feel like there was a lot though, and with all the twists, there were some that we were dealing with side characters or the enemy characters that they were getting the plot twist, and of course those are always exciting. But there were also some with our main group that was kind of shocking that they were even written in there. The twist with our main crew, I think it would have been almost better to get a chapter with their POV and then you get to know what's coming, and then when like the plot twist would happen, then you can get the other character's reaction, but you already knew. I just feel like it shouldn't have been the plot twist to the reader and just a plot twist to the other characters. Other than that, it was still really good. I'm giving this a 3.75 stars. I rated it a 4 on Goodreads. It was really good, but I do have hopes that Crooked Kingdom is going to be a lot better and I'm going to like it a lot more, so I'm going to give this one a 3.75 because I think Crooked Kingdom will probably be like a 4 to a 4.5. I wasn't obsessed. Nothing really stuck out to me too much. I still had a good time reading it. I wasn't really bored in any points. It just took me a little longer to get through than I was expecting. With this and Shadow and Bone, since I've read both of those now, this author's writing may not be for me. I don't think that I will have a book that I'm obsessed with by this author for some reason. I can't really depict what it is about the writing. I feel like there could just be more and it could give you more feelings, and it just didn't. But speaking of feelings, there were so many quotes in here that I just really enjoyed. And I also wasn't expecting romance in this book, but there were little romance subplots and they were really cute. I'm rooting for them in the next book. But this one is, the life you live, the hate you feel, it's poison. I can drink it no longer. And that, I literally love that so much because so many people, even nowadays, they just like put out so much negativity and hate. And it's literally like, it's poison to you. It just brings your whole life down. It really does. What is this one? I gotta try to find them because I took a picture of like the whole entire page. This one was, there was no part of him that was not broken, that had not healed wrong, and there was no part of him that was not stronger for having been broken. Like, genius. Okay, right? This one, oh, freaking so good. I will have you without armor, or I will not have you at all. I love them so much. That writing brings it up for me, but then the rest I just don't really care for too much. So that was the last book. Thank you for picking all of these for me. I had a lot of fun. I really want to do this again where you guys pick the books that I read for a week. First up, we had Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I gave this one a 5 stars. I went through this thinking it was going to be a 4. I was not getting 5-star feelings really. I did tab a ton, as you can see. There's a lot of good quotes in here, just moments that I wanted to remember. This book is just so good if you are feeling lost in life. It really stuck out. It's just a book about people you meet along the way, people that are strangers that you could have some sort of connection with, that you could change their lives from one simple thing. And it's just about humans and what we go through and how we deal with it and what our life is, and that the meaning of life really isn't anything, I guess. You definitely go through a ton of emotions. As someone who is a realist, I lean more towards like pessimist, I'm not gonna lie, but that's not good. But if you're a realist, even a pessimist, maybe even if you're an optimist, I don't know. Everybody just read this book. It was really good. I think that it shows life so well in people. Next up, we had The Brutal Prince. I know that I would have liked this a lot more if the guy wasn't so terrible. I know it's a mafia romance and the guy probably isn't gonna be good anyway, but it was just so shocking to me how this author wrote this guy. There were things that happened that were out of line with both of these characters, which like, in my opinion, that made sense with a mafia type darker romance. But I still, if I'm reading a romance classified book, I want the guy to be a good guy, you know, and I couldn't, so I had to give this book a 1 star. So unfortunately that was a bust, but now we know that I'm not going to read the rest of the series and I don't have to spend money on 5 more books. So always a positive to the negative. And then lastly, Six for Crows, 3.75. So now, since this video was kind of the first episode, like the first real episode with the reading vlogs of my TBR takedown, I feel really good. We started out with 50 books on my TBR. If you've not seen my physical TBR video or even my book shopping video, you can go watch those. Those are the start of the TBR takedown process for me that I'm doing throughout the summer. Now, 3 books down, we are at 47 books left on my TBR. We'll see how many I can get through before summer ends. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for picking my books if you voted in the polls. That being said, I hope you have a great day or a great night wherever you are, and I will see you later. Bye.